Hi loves, it's Emmeline. So today we're gonna make some berry jam. This was super delicious and insanely easy to make, so I'm very excited to share with you guys this recipe. So the first thing you guys will be needing are some jars, and since we're all stuck at home and don't have access to get new jars, I just used what I had. And I feel like it taught me a really good lesson to not buy and just try to see if I have anything at home. So I had like a pesto jar, a relish jar, and I just cleaned those out. I'm putting some water in a pot right now, and I'm going to put this on the stove and boil the water, and I'm just throwing all the jars in, and this will help to get all the labels off really easily, and it's not going to leave any of that sticky residue. And like I mentioned before, I feel like this taught me a really good lesson. I always go to Michael's or any type of store that sells mason jars, and I would always buy a mason jar for something in particular. But this taught me to just look in my refrigerator and see if I have anything I could use. And I really loved that. So I added in a little bit more water, and now I'm just going to bring this to a boil. And as you guys can see, the labels will just peel right off, and they just come off so easily. It's way easier than sitting there and trying to scrub these. I also added a little bit of soap in towards the end. I felt like maybe it would help the labels and just any of the excess residue to come off. So as you guys can see, the jars come really clean. There was only one jar that had a little bit of the label residue still on it, but I'll show you guys that in just a second. It was so easy to take off. I just took my sponge, went over it, and it slid right off with no problem, and I didn't have to sit there and scrub it for a while, so that was really awesome. Then I washed the jars and I preheated the oven at 200 degrees. Once it preheated, I put all of the jars in there and I turned the oven off. And this process is going to help sanitize all of the jars. I also put the lids in there too. I just let the jars hang out in here until the jam was done. So now for the jam, you'll be needing 6 cups of mixed berries, a lemon, and sugar. So I decided to go with frozen berries just because fresh fruit is a little bit hard to find right now, and this bag was exactly 6 cups, so it was perfect. And I'm also a little bit cautious of buying fresh fruit right now just because I feel like I would have to wash it really, really well. So I decided to just add in the frozen ones. So I put it on low heat just to kind of let the fruit de-thaw a little bit. And then in the meantime, I am just rolling out this lemon and cutting it in half. And then I'm going to squeeze all of the juice out of it. We'll be needing 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in total. So now I'm just adding in the 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and at this point I turned up the heat to medium high, and now I'm adding in 2 cups of sugar, and that is it for this recipe. It's only 3 ingredients. It is so easy and so simple. The thing with this jam is that it will only last 2 weeks. That's what the blog post said at least. So it's not one of those recipes that is going to last forever, and they do recommend keeping it in the refrigerator. So I think that if I were to do a recipe that had a lot more ingredients and the typical ingredients, it probably would last much longer. But this will in total make 32 ounces of jam. So I was able to make 4 8-ounce jars, and then I just gave them to my family, and I think it was absolutely perfect. So once this comes to a boil, you can turn your heat down to a medium heat. And now what we're gonna do is just let this simmer, and we're gonna let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and then it'll be done. And be prepared for your house to smell like a berry heaven. It smells so, so amazing. Here's Willie licking his lips when he smelled it. And I just opened up the oven because I knew the jam was almost done. So I'm just taking out all of these jars and getting them ready to put the jam in. So here I have some spoons that I put in the freezer, and these are going to be the indicator of whether the jam is done or not. So you just place the frozen spoon in the jam like that, and if all of the jam sticks to it and looks pretty solid, then that means it's done. If not, then you can wait a little bit longer, take out your next spoon and try it. So again, we're just using what we have at home. So we cut this iced tea jar and we're using this as our funnel, and it actually worked out really well. Props to Connor for coming up with this idea. So here's what the jam looks like, and now we're just going to pour it through our makeshift funnel into the jars. I think making something like jam at a time like this is so amazing. Like I mentioned before, I dropped one off at my sister's house, and I also dropped one off at my parents' house, and I just left it at the door for them, and they were both so excited about it. And I think doing little things like this and just leaving things at people's doors for them is really great because it just helps to bring joy, and especially when people know that it's something homemade, they just feel really loved and excited. We didn't waste any jam, which was great. We just kept refilling some of the jars, and once they were all filled to the top, we were out of jam, so it actually worked out really perfectly with all of these different size jars. But like I mentioned before, if you just have 4 8-ounce jars, that'll be perfect. One of these was like 13, one was 6, so it kind of evened it all out. But this is what it looked like. We did have a little bit of a mess, but it wasn't horrible. So now I'm just putting the lids back on, and once you put the lid on and the jam fully cools, the lid will do its thing with suctioning it. So I also wanted to share with you guys something you could do, because I know if you pick out jars from your refrigerator, they might not always be the prettiest, so I just wanted to share something you could do. So I have some scissors, some twine, and then some scraps of fabric. If you guys even have an old shirt that you don't use anymore, or a bandana, or just any sort of fabric lying around your house, you can just take it and cut it up, and then I'm just going to place this over the lid and take that piece of twine and just tie this on. It definitely was a 2-person job. I think if you have a rubber band, it'll probably be a little bit easier, but to actually tie something around it, you'll probably need 2 people. But I just felt like this gave the jar such a cute homemade look, and you could also write special notes on it, and again leave this at your friend and family's door, and I think that they would love it. So I just cut off the excess fabric because I thought I liked how it looked a little bit better that way. And your jam is all done. You can leave this in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks, and it is just so delicious. I had it on my toast this morning and it tasted so good. I can't believe how easy it was to make. So here's what it looks like the next day once it is fully cooled, and oh my goodness, it is just so amazing. I think you could also add in chia seeds to it, and it would make it a little bit thicker and also just give it that amazing chia seed texture that is just so good. Definitely an option if you guys want. So I'm just spreading some onto a piece of pound cake, and it just tastes amazing. I hope you guys are all having a safe and happy day, and I love you guys so much. Bye.